Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, my partner in crime, Vasili Gianarakos. Back for another episode, my friend, Vasili. How are you?
I'm doing well, Yariv. Hope you are doing well too in Israel. I mean, the Flyers, unfortunately, are not doing the greatest. Back-to-back 6-2 losses. Have lost 4 in a row and have lost eight of the last 10. So kind of a bit of a slide here, but there's a lot for us to dive into. What do you think about just what's happening so far, and how you been, man?
Yeah, pretty good, dude. Thank you. Yeah, still in Israel until March 1st, and then I'll be back in the States, and we'll probably switch our schedule a little bit. But as far as the Flyers, I mean, like, to be honest with you, I am like not stressed about anything regarding this
Yeah,
team. Not the winning and losing. Like, I already know what my expectations are. I expect them to be in the mix for a top pick. They're still in that position, and I've kind of been stating my opinion over and over again. It seems to be aligned where I thought the team would be without Sean Couturier. Yeah, just outside that playoff race. I think, a lot of people can freak out over the losses and all that, but I'm not really concerned about any of that stuff. I only am concerned to see the young guys continue to develop, and that the Fletcher does the right things with the assets that he can. And, you look at the St. Louis Blues are doing right now. You look at the ages of the players that they traded, and the guys that they're most likely keeping. Most of those guys are going to be in their, early to mid 20s. It seems familiar. So I feel pretty good, actually, even about the losses. They suck to watch. Like, I don't enjoy watching them, but I don't have this like gut wrench where I'm like, oh man, like another loss or falling
yeah.
deeper behind. Like, I don't really think about that. I'm kind of just like, let the chips fall as they may.
I agree. I think it's more of an evaluative kind of period. I mean,
Yeah.
at least this year in general for the team, and that's kind of the expectations a lot of people had. Obviously, them doing a little bit better, during December and January kind of raised some expectations for certain people. But I always kind of thought that was a bit of a hot streak, and they're going to kind of, get back to what they
Yeah.
really are. And what they are is, I mean, a team that usually comes to play, works hard, but has trouble scoring goals. And that's what we've been seeing as of late here. And like you're saying, I don't think there's really much to worry about. It's actually interesting for me that there's a bit of adversity for them, because I think it presents a opportunity for some of the younger guys and maybe even some other guys to see how they deal with the adversity. Obviously, there's still about 20, 25, 30 games left, something around that. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys kind of who are still around after the deadline respond, right? Because I think, as Tortorella and the staff were saying, they're still evaluating every day up until the end of this season on who is going to be a part of this and who's not. So I think it'll be interesting to see what younger guys kind of respond to this kind of adversity for the Flyers' perspective, because it might play into maybe decision making for them in the
Yeah.
offseason.
Absolutely, dude. Well said. And I guess just to review, just to recap, and Vasily did a good job of stating this already, but Flyers lose to the Kraken 6-2 and then lose another one back to back. Not back to back, the game in between, but lose another one 6-2. Oh my God, why is my brain blanking? To Vancouver, sorry, to the Canucks. I would say both losses, sure, on paper look the same, but they weren't. The Flyers, in my opinion, played considerably worse against the Kraken, though the Kraken are
Yeah.
a better team. I don't think the Flyers played particularly well against Vancouver, because they had some good moments, though. It wasn't a disaster of a game. It's not a game that Vancouver dominated on the score sheet. And be honest, I watched this one in the morning because this game's on at 5 a.m. here. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wait till it's over, and I'll wake
Yeah.
up and I'll watch it first thing in the morning. And I watched it, and usually I've been pretty good at avoiding my phone and seeing anything, but I had like a tweet come up, Flyers lose 6-2, and I was like, damn it. And I knew, and it's funny, actually, I'll tell you a story about the other game. And I knew that the Flyers, that the last 2 goals were empty netters. I just like had a feeling. I was like, there's no way that the Flyers gave 6 goals
Yeah.
normally to
And
Vancouver.
Hart is giving up 6 goals
Yeah.
too.
And
Yeah. So,
and it's exactly what happened. Actually, the night before, I was like, I have a feeling TK is going to score. I was like, and then I have a feeling he's going to score the second one too. And for the first game, because I didn't know the score of that one, but I
yeah.
did know that he scored the first goal, or I saw him score the first goal, and I was like, he's going to score the second one. I was like,
He was buzzing in that one for them. At
yeah,
least he was like their most kind of noticeable guy.
yeah.
I think
I,
really the difference between the two games is, I mean, pretty easy, right? Like the Flyers in the Seattle game, they just did not have it from the get go. The effort just was not there. The jump was not there. The skating really wasn't there. And then when you're playing a team like Seattle, who's just their team, the way they put it together, it's a team full of guys that are really, really fast. So if you don't have your legs, they're going to forecheck you and pressure you until you're unable really to have any time to make any plays with the puck. And if you watch that game, the Flyers would have the puck for a couple seconds and it would have to move it in about 2 or 3, or else the Kraken are either going to be on top of them, or they're so on top of them that even when they do move it, it's not going to be an effective pass because they never had the time to actually make a legitimate stretch pass or really a legitimate play. So the Flyers struggled with that against the Kraken. They struggled with it against them on Sunday as well. So I think just in general, it looks like the Kraken probably aren't a great matchup for the Flyers, just with their speed and how they play.
how they play. We talked about this. When a team plays that grind you down, checking hockey, the Flyers can't match it. They play the same type of game.
Yeah.
And when a team has more skill in that department, the Flyers don't do well against it. They only do well against teams that play more offensive, a little sloppier hockey, teams that will take more chances. The Flyers will jump on that.
And Seattle's very similar to them, actually. That's a good point in terms of game plan and structure and stuff.
Yeah. And they play to their strength, which is balance. It's very similar to Vegas in the first season, where they didn't have any elite guys, but they had like the right kind of group together. Yeah, those names don't jump on paper and go like, oh my God, they're superstars. And Bernier's obviously is on his path to being a star, but which is a nice centerpiece to have there. But the guys around him are all at least middle 6'4s, and that's the benefit of these expansion teams. They don't have bad players. They don't have guys that are bubble NHL.
Yeah, it's crazy too. They still have a solid team, even though they passed on a couple guys that they probably should have had, like a Tarasenko and stuff like that. But it's not
planned right.
Yeah, they planned right, but it's crazy too with Seattle, just because, like you're saying, those Vegas teams, they have like about, if I look at their lineup, it's like 2 second lines and 2 third lines. They don't really have a true fourth line. But
they do have, I would say, a team that has Jack Eichel on it. I still think he's recovering, just like Farabee is from that surgery. But they do have a true number 1 center, at least.
Oh no, I wasn't talking about Vegas. I was talking about Seattle. Like, they have like two second lines, 2 third lines, kind of almost with their makeup.
100%.
And then even on defense, like Adam Larson's not like a bona fide number 1 guy or anything, but he's a top pair defenseman, and I mean, with the opportunity,
he's a complimentary top pairing guy.
Yeah, he's playing well. I mean, Edmonton must be thinking, man, we could use a guy like that we used to have.
Yeah, if only.
Crazy. Well, yeah, pretty much.
To Edmonton's credit, they did decide to go to the route where, like, okay, we know what our strength is. Yeah. We're gonna score. We're gonna score more than everybody else in the league. We have the 2 best scorers in the league right now. Let's give them let's at least get that down where we're offensively one of the scariest teams. And they are, but you can see that doesn't win you the most important games. It doesn't get you through the most important part of the season. Quite frankly, the way that Tortorella coaches is, that's why he talks about how that's what's necessary to win in the playoffs. That's what's necessary when a team is playing at their best. Flyers don't have enough talent to be a playoff team, but they are learning to play like a playoff team. And the fact that everybody's freaking out over that Kraken game, it's like, okay, I didn't like seeing it, but it's like, okay, it's the first one they had in a while. The other games were not clunkers. They weren't great, but they weren't clunkers. I do think the Flyers are losing momentum. I think there's a few reasons for that, but I also think there are regular dips. And when you're not that good of a team, this is kind of expected. Like, what did you expect, that they'd start winning out the rest of the year? We know they don't have that talent to do that.
Like I was kind of saying, you're gonna have highs and lows, and obviously the December and January period was a big high for this team, and a lot of young guys were feeling good about themselves and had momentum going just because they're scoring a lot more. And when the droughts start to amount for some younger guys and streakier scorers, obviously it's going to be tougher for a team to score goals. And I mean, John Tortorella kind of mentioned that in his presser after the game, where he thought the team had the effort. It's just lack of finish and creating really high quality chances. And I think the effort shows just in the sense that, I mean, the Flyers have 37 shots to the Canucks 23, right? So like they're making a point to put the puck on the net. It's just the fact that in the situations where they're doing it, it's not always a high danger chance or something that's going to really get you the opportunities that you're looking for. And like
No.
another kind of stat that I have here to pull out is, I mean, if you look at it, this is after the second period. It was a graphic that CBC put up for Hockey Night in Canada. I was watching the game through them last night, and essentially, like after the second, the Flyers have 21 shots to Vancouver 17. It's a 3-2 game, but Vancouver has 13 cycle chances to the Flyers 5 and 10 slot chances to the Flyers 5. So they double them up in chances, despite the fact that they are down 4 shots with cycle chances and slot chances. So it just shows that even though the Canucks don't match the Flyers in terms of shots, where they're getting their actual chances are where you're going to score on the ice, which is in the slot and on the cycle, where typically if the Flyers are successful, usually their chances are also coming from working the cycle with their forecheck and then pushing the puck out to the slot, which the past handful of games, they have not been doing that effectively. And I think it goes to your point where maybe it's kind of like I don't know if it's a mental or a physical fatigue or a combination of the both, but you kind of do see some guys getting worn down a bit. And I think it speaks to the lack of depth that the team has just in terms of scoring, because there's a lot of young guys and there isn't really like too many veteran scorers to rely on aside from Kevin Hayes and Konechny. And are those really, at least with Konechny, he's a bona fide top line guy, but other than that, they don't really have much help. So I think it's kind of expected at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, oh, do you want to go through these stats? Actually, I don't want to say them for you about the block shots.
Oh yeah, sure. So some other interesting stuff.
I think it
Is
just goes well with
Flyers.
what you're saying.
Yeah, the Flyers, they are second in the league in most block shots this season, but they also have third lowest offensive zone puck possession time in the league. So, I mean, my thought with those is like, are the two kind of correlated where, the Flyers are blocking so many shots because other teams have the puck so much. Though, I mean, John Tortorella's system is to block shots, so they're always going to try to block shots. Some teams don't always do that. Some teams like to kind of leave shots and let goalies see them. Personally, as a goalie, I love when my team blocks shots in front of me because less shots to save. Even if one gets tipped in, stuff like that, it happens. So I think that's a good thing that the Flyers are blocking shots. But it does speak to the fact that other teams have the puck probably a lot more than them for them to block those many shots in general. So I think that goes into like the lack of offensive zone puck possession time, right? Like with a team like the Flyers and their lack of scoring, the fact that they're third last in the league in offensive zone puck possession, all it speaks to is that they don't have the horse and they don't have the talent to really possess the puck in dangerous areas in the offensive zone. And when you can't possess the puck consistently in a dangerous area in the offensive zone, it's going to be harder to score goals. And we've kind of seen that, we've seen, during the stretch when they're playing well, like January, December, they were possessing the puck more offensively, but you can obviously like take in the last few games, they've not had the puck as often in the offensive zone in those critical areas where you're going to score, which is behind the net, down low cycling in the slot, stuff like that. It's kind of been more perimeter in the offensive zone, and they got to get back to the middle to score. I just don't know this season how it's going, and just like now they're going to subtract at the trade deadline and things like that. Are they really going to be able to do that? We'll see, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to go up and down. I think for the most part that, this team has learned how to play a better brand of hockey, but they don't have the type of role players even that play outside of Morgan Frost, TK, a little bit of Kevin Hayes. They don't have really a ton of possession players.
No,
it is a weakness. It hurts our our defensive. I'm sorry, our offensive game from the defense. It hurts a lot when it comes to our offensive production. And it makes us weaker as a team because we spend more time in our own zone. The reason we have so many block shots is we like to let our opponents, because they do have the puck more often than us, just take shots and we'll block them all day coming the outside. We have a goaltender that if he sees it, he's probably going to stop it. So this team is a team that plays around its strengths at the moment. Yeah. But I think that, I think it's good for players to leave. I actually think that this is the time. I think this is perfect. And then the losses aside, I think right now you're in a position like if you run Tankathon, I've been running it, after the Flyers lose, I run it. The Flyers win almost every single time. I mean, win the lottery draft. Almost every single time I'll sim it the first time they'll get it or they'll get second. or
Yeah.
but they will move up, and that doesn't mean they will. I'm aware of that. It's also not the same mechanism that creates this, but they're in that range. They're one of the teams that
Yeah.
could get lucky and move its way up. And even if not, it's still a really damn good player in that top crop. And I think overall, this is a good place for the Flyers to be. Yeah, everybody wants them to be at the very bottom, but no, they're not that bad. They're like St. Louis. They're not that bad. They're still good young players here. They can retool. They can get rid of the older guys. Let the team lose out. Let Frost get more ice time. Let Allison get more. Why not? What do you got to lose?
Yeah.
Tortorella getting frustrated?
It's literally more like we were kind of saying before, right? It's just a more ice time, more chances to evaluate your younger guys. Really,
You got
you're
nothing to
moving out.
lose.
Yeah, you're moving out your veterans.
Losses are kind of good.
Exactly. You're moving out your veterans that you can kind of gain assets for. In turn, you're gaining those assets and giving your younger guys a chance to show you even more. And it could be a good thing because you could hypothetically give a younger guy a bigger, piece, a bigger bite of the apple, let's say. And if you
Yep.
don't like what you see, you could use them as a chip in the off season and move on from them. I don't think there's really anybody that, even with the younger guys, aside from like a Gauthier and a York and obviously a Carter Hart, I don't think there's a lot of
Brink,
younger guys. Yeah, Brink too. I would mention him in there. Probably Forster.
2021.
Probably
Yep.
Forster as well.
Yeah.
For the younger guys, I don't think there's much that's really untouchable. Like for example, even though I like what I've seen from Morgan Frost, this season, we can kind of get into Frost a bit because we have him as a topic here. I
Sure.
thought he looked good last game playing with Konechny against Vancouver. I thought he had some good moments. Like there was a play in the third period where Frost, he puts on a sweet dangle move, kind of carves out the Canucks
It's
defender with
dope.
the stick handling, and then you're like, okay, get the puck on net or get it to the net, and he just doesn't do it, right? He looks for the pass, and that's kind of where you get frustrated, where you see that world class skill, but the decision
But
making isn't there.
isn't that, let me ask you this, and like, I think you would agree with me. Like, isn't that kind of what you expect from a younger guy
Yeah,
to
it
to
is
be a
though.
little, and especially Frost, who was intimidated by the NHL
A
when he
little
first got up
hesitant.
here. Yeah, he's still like, like a lot of those times where you're like, and we still have that with TK, even though it's obviously disappearing more and more. It's like, no, you're the guy,
Yeah,
not
you shoot it.
like
Yeah,
you can't tell them not. You can't tell Frost, hey, don't pass, don't shoot. You don't want to get in his head that way.
no, no,
But
no.
but it's really just the mentality. Be like, dude, you're the guy.
Be more assertive.
We
That's what it really
we
is.
want you to take the shot.
We
Like
want you
no,
to assert yourself.
right.
Exactly.
We'd rather see you try to go for that shot and get it blocked than you try to take that extra pass, because we
Yeah.
want to see that you're that guy who wants to be the winner. Like
Yeah.
like put the puck on my stick. I want to shoot again.
Yeah. I want to
Like I
have the
can get
big
him next
play.
time.
I want to have the big play in the big moment where it's 3-2 in the game and I'm tying it. Like that's
And
what they want to see from him ultimately. But
yeah, and we can mix it into the TK talk too, because TK has
yeah.
obviously turned it back on.
Yeah.
He has 3 points in the last 2 games, 2 goals, 1 assist. He's starting to bring that consistency back, but it's not so much even like the points. You can just
Yeah.
see the way he's playing. He
Oh,
is
night and day, man. Night and day.
high danger scoring areas, aggressive in the middle,
Well,
shooting.
I
Um,
think we could all agree, Yariv, that like when he was being or playing so well earlier, he was driving to the net,
the same type of yeah,
not afraid to shoot, all those things you kind of mentioned. Whereas the last little stretch, 13 games where he did not score, he was kind of doing the opposite. He's playing
yeah.
more on the perimeter, wasn't getting to the middle. I think those 2 goals, even though it's in a game it's kind of garbage time goals, like you're scoring 2 goals when it's like 6-2, whatever,
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. But for him, it matters because he's thinking, fuck, like finally I'm back on the board. And for a player, that's a big confidence builder.
Well, don't you think
Um,
that's what's important more than winning right now?
yeah,
Is
at
that
this point, it's building younger players' confidence or players on the team's confidence in general, just getting them to feel good about their games, even in a season where there's not always a lot to feel the best about, especially when you're not getting the results you want and the losses are kind of piling up a little bit
I
more than
mean,
usual. So
I can tell you this, that like we don't have the veteran core around this team
no,
right
no, no,
now,
definitely not.
especially without Couturier and Atkinson, especially without
Yeah.
Couturier.
But
But
yeah, Couturier and Atkinson, and even I guess Ellis to an extent, like that was supposed to be your veteran
sure,
core,
yeah,
essentially.
but we don't have those really good veteran players outside, I guess, Kevin Hayes. And it's an issue because if you look at the fact that we have Cates and Frost and Tippett and Farabee, and we have all these guys who are 21, 22. Back in the day, if you had all of these guys who are as good as these guys in complementary with a veteran core, you'd be like, oh my God, we are rocking and rolling. And
Yeah,
and that's what I think people need to realize is like these guys are actually pretty valuable.
they're pretty
They're
good. Yeah,
they're pretty good players. They might not be the best players on your team. Some of
they
them
just need
might
help.
turn
They
into
need some more help, man.
yeah,
Is really what it is.
and
It's like,
developed help, not like
yeah,
a 22-year-old guy like them.
no, 100%. And I think that's a great point to make because you can see certain situations where not they're overwhelmed or anything, but like you're
No,
in a
I think
3-2
I
game.
don't think that's a bad word for it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. I mean, overwhelmed if you want to say it, but either way, like I think you get into a situation where like you're in a 3-2 game and then you're looking for goals and you have younger guys like probably Frost, Tippett thinking, well, it's all on me now. Like who else is there to help? And I think that is a good point to make that in the circumstances a lot of these guys are in, they haven't had a lot of offensive help, especially for the younger guys. It's kind of been all on them. Like Morgan Frost, I'd say he's been getting used as like a first line offensive center or anything, but when the Flyers need a goal, like
That,
Tortorella's putting him out there
that
and looking for goals and saying, "Here's your chance, kid." But like, it's not always as easy as it is when you're the guy they're looking for to make that goal or
yeah.
create that play, and you're playing against top defenders in the league. Not to make excuses as to why maybe those plays aren't happening, but sometimes as a younger guy in the league, especially for Frost, who like this is really his first real full NHL regular season, first real shot, really with all this ice time. You know, you do need help at points. That's why I'm kind of interested to see like next year, you know, you get a Couturier in here or even another center, and we'll get into the Flyers and their whole center expedition. But
Yeah.
you get in some more help for these younger guys here, and you know, it looks a lot better than it does, right? Because there's just more balance. And I think that's really what it is of this season is just there's lack of balance, but it's also a good opportunity too, because due to the fact that you don't have that balance scoring, younger guys are getting more of a chance to kind of show what they can do. For Frost specifically, though, I think the last 30 games is just a real interesting point for him and just where is at in his development because there's been a lot of flashes. I just think there is points where like you see him play well and there'll be 2 games where he dips. I think they just want him to like put a stretch of like 5 or 10 games where like, okay, you might not have to get points every night, but I want to see you, make an effect, have an impact, be a difference maker on a night-to-night basis, which I don't know if he's been doing the last stretch, but you could argue the whole team has been playing that well in these last like, 10 games or so. So
100%. I would say um his role in that different from Kate's, and I would say Kate's is also very difficult in Tippett. But he's got a big role to be a play driver, and that's very difficult. And this is why I want the veteran guys removed even more. I'm like, let's see how they handle this. Like for me, it's a
yeah,
complete experiment. I'm like,
I
okay.
agree.
I was
It's a
like,
good evaluative process.
well, it's only a benefit to us if they drop in the standings. Maybe they don't want to admit this publicly, but the Flyers know that. They're not
Yeah,
stupid. At this
and
point, it doesn't matter. But they don't want to ask them to lose. They don't want to
no,
put them in a position to fail. But they want to be like, hey, look, you guys had the veterans for a while. We know, you know what I mean? Like, fight for the playoffs. You guys aren't going anywhere. Nobody here is being traded in mass. But they know we're building towards next year too. Tortorella's here for obviously 5 years, at least 4,
yeah,
and like, hey, this is a process for us. So like, removing the veterans, I think, is quite appropriate, or at least a few of them, to be like, okay, it's going to be a little harder now,
yeah.
but
Let's
this is
see
what
how
it's
you
going to be
rise to the
like.
challenge.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then, you worry about the offseason about adding new veterans or whatever. You're going to, maybe you can move Kevin Hayes, you don't know.
Yeah,
But you can bring in a veteran core over time. But if the
yeah,
young core is developed, then you can fit in those
yeah. And
those veteran
even
pieces in their prime. Like
and
hopefully a Dylan Larkin,
to add in too,
which I
there's
don't think
even
is going to happen.
another flip side to the coin, whereas you see some young guys take other steps. Potentially, who knows if you want to keep them or what really the plan is, but you could
Yeah.
there's always going to be hockey trades to be had, and there's going to be other younger guys on other teams that might need a change of scenery you could be interested in. So you give these younger guys a bigger, piece of the pie to end the season. They perform well. That could always be used on the flip side to kind of move them potentially for another younger guy that might fit better in your eyes. So there's always options. So I think it's a good thing, for the Flyers to, like you're saying, kind of remove these older players that we know are on the way outs and let the younger guys kind of sink or swim and see what they have here. I mean, they've kind of done that this season already and give them a lot of chances. But now when you kind of remove, a JVR and some of these even defensemen particularly like a Braun or a Sealer, you get even more of an opportunity for the younger guys to kind of show what they do have. So
Yeah, 100%, dude. And so I do want to transition into Farabee a little bit because I've been listening to like a lot of panic when it comes to Farabee.
yeah.
And
I'm
one
not
thing,
concerned at
well, I
all.
just want to point out one, he's 22. Like I'm hearing like this is concerning about like what were the expectations for people this season for Farabee? I get that Tortorella is going to push him and say it's not an excuse. Tortorella doesn't want it getting in his head with the injury.
Yeah, exactly.
That
He's a
I get.
coach. He's a coach's coach. He's
Yeah,
not gonna. He's gonna be like, okay, no, you could be better. Like, that's what
yeah.
Torrell's always gonna do.
Well,
Let's be
just
real.
watching people panic over a 22-year-old that is the fourth highest point per game pace, and that includes this year where he's slowed down a little bit, even though not
Yeah.
terribly. This is a guy who's still ahead of schedule. He had a setback here from injuries, a serious surgery. It's gonna take him time, whether Tortorella tells you that or not. We all see it every year with every player that it takes time. He's also just 22. And
Yeah.
I think people need to remember that. This is why I want, like, this is the guys that we need to build together, not say, oh, none of them are stars. This isn't going to work out. Let's flip the table and start over again. It's, hey, we have a cluster of guys here in their 20s. We need to add support for them, but there is some talent here. A guy like Farabee, just give it time. Like, I don't think he's been the same player that he was last year, but I also think there have been signs of it. And if you look at his ice time usage, it has not dropped. It's consistent.
It's 17 minutes a night, actually.
Yeah.
So if he was playing terribly, I don't think Tortorella would be willing to use him that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think that
He's a guy
plays
who
into
didn't
it.
get an off season, dude.
No, I think that's the biggest part. I mean, I
Heisman get
understand.
faster and stronger during the
I
season.
understand, the frustration or like fans looking at it and saying, well, oh, he looked like he was kind of going to break out and have that big breakout year,
Yeah, he had an
which
injury.
it's true. Yeah. He was poised for that. And if he didn't have the injury, you probably would have marked this year as okay. Like it's what we're expecting, right?
Can I interrupt you 1 second? Do you
Sure. Yeah.
know that Tyson Forrester, I think, is one of 3 other players from his draft class who has not played in the NHL at all?
No, I did not know that. But,
from the first round.
But that's not surprising to me. But also
considering
COVID and all
the
injury
serious injury, right?
The injury with the shoulder.
He lost an entire year. Farabee losing a year. Frost lost a year. It's just like it kind of happens pretty often to most players.
But also, I feel like just to kind of mention Forrester, like the Flyers are being really careful with his development, which I kind of like. Like they're giving him AHL time, which is good.
Denoye.
Yeah, same with Denoye, which both
Denoye would have been called up in previous years, I think.
Yeah,
already.
So like the Flyers are doing a good job with being patient with the younger guys, but just touch on Farabee a bit here. Like I think it's fair to, if he never had the injury, to earmark this season coming up as okay, we're looking for a breakout. But when you have that disc replacement surgery where only 3 other players in the NHL, or actually, 3 including Farabee, have had the surgery. So Jack Eichel, Tyler Johnson, and Eichel, has not looked close to himself coming back. It took him several months to, get back to that. I kind of expected the exact same thing with Farabee. And Farabee, it happens to him even younger in his career where he hasn't really established himself yet. Right. So it's obviously going to affect him even more because he's still trying to kind of figure out, okay, what can work for me in this league? What do I need to do to hit that next level? And then when an injury like that happens, obviously it's going to put more of a pause on that and make it more difficult because, like you're saying, he just never had the opportunity to train and gain more strength, gain more speed, work really on his game.
From surgery.
Work on his game as he really wanted to. And if you talk to players, right, like having a full offseason to train and work on your game is a huge thing. And you talk to guys.
Let me ask you this:
injured all the time, yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but let me ask you this: it's according to what you just said. Have you ever seen a player? We can stick to the Flyers that has had an injury in the offseason and came into the season lights out.
It's very rare. And if it's a major injury, not really. Like Giroux, when he had those hernias, he looked like shit. Gossespierre looked like shit. Kevin Hayes did not really look very well. Wayne Simmons had those same like double hernia injuries with that year where we traded him. They see obviously before, and he looked terrible. He barely could skate. I mean, Farabee doesn't look bad by any means, but he doesn't look like he's burning the world on fire. But like that's to be expected. He's kind of working back into game shape and learning. You kind of have to. You gotta understand, man. Like when you have a big injury like that, and even at 22 years old, Faraby's kind of in a position where it's actually, I think, a better thing that it happened to him early. Obviously, you don't want something like that to happen at all. But when you
Right.
have a disc replacement surgery like that, and it's hockey, you know, like your back is a huge part in like building the strength to your legs and your skating and everything. So you know that has an effect on the way he's like pushing off and like skating.
100%. He looks
So
slower than he was
yeah,
last
exactly.
year.
So like
Less power coming down the wings.
it has a huge effect on that. So he has to adjust himself to be like, okay, well, I used to be more powerful in my strides. I used to be able to do this and that, and now I'm having trouble. How am I going to be able to build that strength back up and get back to that? It's going to take time, but I think it's a good thing, at least that for him, it's happened to him at a younger age, because the younger you are, the easier it is for your body to
To
recover from a
recover
surgery and
for sure.
adapt, right? Like when if you're a 30-year-old having a disc replacement surgery, who knows
It's worse
how it's gonna affect you. So the
for
fact that he's
sure.
younger is a good thing. And I mean, people are kind of overblowing, I think, just with the injury, kind of how bad he's playing, because I think we should have expected it. And he's not playing bad to any like regard. I think he just hasn't been, you know, what we're used to seeing, which is we're used to Farabee being a difference maker, and when you or being a difference maker, I mean, and when you don't see him making a difference out there, you're wondering what's happened to him, right? I think that's more of what it is, because usually he is having an effect on the games and an impact on a night to night basis when we've seen him in the past, and he's not at this point. But I think
Who's our top
the
line left winger?
yeah, the injury's playing an effect, but I mean, he's still in 57 games. He still has 26 points, 9 goals, 17 assists. There's about 25 games left. Like I could see him probably getting maybe the 15 goal mark, and you know, if he hits about 15 goals for a season where he's coming off a huge surgery like that, I don't think that's really the worst thing. And I think it's good for him to look at it and say, well, you know what, wasn't the best season, but now I kind of know what I need to do and how I need to adapt with this surgery and what I really need to work on next season to make sure that I have one of my, you know, I have a breakout or have one of my best seasons that I've had to this point. So I think it'll help him, just the fact that he's been able to play through it this year. It maybe pinpoint, okay, like what has this surgery done to me and like the way my game is in terms of my skating, like my power on the ice, like even my shot, because I'm sure it affects the shot as well. Like what do I need to do
Definitely.
to kind of help in the off season, and where do I need to focus on to kind of get those things back up to where I want them to be.
Yeah, he just goes back to his process and continues. Totally agree. So, let's move on to the goalie. We touched on it a little bit, but I noticed a lot of people talking about there's like a controversy, goalie controversy. It's
uh,
amazing that people jump to this. There is none. Hart
no,
is
yeah.
clear cut the number one on this team, as he should be. He's also better than Ersan. I'm sorry, everyone. Ersan is great. He's also younger. He's less
Mhm.
refined.
Yeah.
He is at very least an NHL backup at this point, and clearly a potential starter. Carter Hart is already a starter, potentially bona fide, regular all star. It's hard for me to say that he is one, though I believe talent wise he is. The team's got to play around him to get him there. But I don't know. I don't see a controversy here at all. I mean, Tortorella stated it himself. The goalie coaches go to Hart. The coaches go to Hart. I do expect Ersan to get some games. I think he clearly, if the Flyers didn't have Hart, Ersan would be the starting goaltender here. Like back in the day, that would be our prized goalie prospect, right?
100%.
But
Yeah.
we have a thing of riches here, and this is perfect. And I like that they didn't give up on Sandstrom. I like that they're like, hey, we're just going to hold all of them for now. I mean, the Flyers shouldn't move away from Sandstrom yet. They don't really have another guy to jump in there if God forbid something happens. And look, you need to be able to ice an NHL team. And people don't want to give Sandstrom credit, but he did really well in the AHL prior to this too. So maybe he needs just a little more time. It actually took him a while to adjust to the AHL too. So I think maybe the Flyers are thinking that too, that it's like, hey, maybe he just needs some more time. I think he has a little bit more time. I don't think he
Yeah.
has a ton of time left in the NHL, but he's not a complete lost cause, and he's not devoid of value. Even if the Flyers let him walk as a free agent, I think a team signs him and
A
keeps him.
team signs him, try to be the backup mix, I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
I think they would. I think another team would give him a try, and if it's not there, then he goes back to Europe and he plays overseas. But he's a pro. Like he definitely is a pro athlete. He hasn't played well enough, but he has the pro potential regardless. So I do think there is no controversy. I still think Hart is playing really well. I think he can play even a higher level than this, and I think the team needs to tighten up around him, because when they do play that well, he looks out of this world. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think, Vasili?
Yeah, for the goalie controversy stuff, I mean, that's just ridiculous. There's no controversy. I mean, it's an easy thing to look at. Carter Hart's the starting goalie. Sam Ursun's likely the backup moving ahead. Sandstrom probably is going to be the odd man out eventually, just by the nature of things. But I mean, you never know what's going to happen down the stretch, and just there's a potential that he gets some games and goes on the heater. It's hockey. It's happened before. Goalies get hot. Like anything can really occur in the net. I would not be too surprised there. But in terms of just like Carter Hart, he's having a fantastic season. So Andy and Rono on Twitter, they do those player index cards,
Yeah.
and they put one together for Carter Hart this season, and he's got a 93. I don't know if you can kind of see on my phone. Probably not. It's probably a shitty screenshot, but either way, so he's got a 93 overall that they've done. So they give him a 93% in all situations. So 93% in goals saved above expected, a 93% in high danger saves, a 90% in low danger saves, a 70% in medium danger saves, and 5-on-5 play. He's a 96% in goals saved above expected, 94% in high danger saves, and 85% in medium danger saves, and a 97% in low danger saves. And then on the penalty kill, where the Flyers have struggled, his stats dip a bit. But just for the fact that Hart overall in all those categories is doing so well, just shows his skill, and just the fact that he's been playing at an elite level this season. And really, when you see the Flyers lose these games like and they're kind of blown out, it's more around just the chances that they're giving up. Like Hart can only do
Backdoor goals, and
Hart can only do so much in terms of
I
what's in
hate that
front of him,
shit.
right? Yeah. So like
I hate
when you're
backdoor
when you're
goals.
a when you're a goaltender, you're a victim to the team and the defense in front of you, and what kind of
Great
chances
choice of great choice of words.
yeah, what kind of chances they give up to you or give up in front of you, right? So Hart has been a bit of a victim of that this season, right? Like when the Flyers play their system, they play the right way and keep teams to the perimeter, and they're smart with their exits and aren't turning the puck over in their own end. Usually you see Hart give up probably 1 goal a game. That's typically his average. But when the Flyers are turning the puck over and they're not covering the right way and they're missing coverage in their own end, you kind of see it spiral, and that's going to happen for any goalie, right? So
Yeah.
he's playing well on the season so far. I believe he has a 912 save percentage, so he's almost at a 9, like close
Th-
to a 920, which is kind of nuts because the team in front of him is not the greatest. So
yeah.
just the fact that he's already like he's in that mix of almost being a 920 save percentage this season is just shows how good that he's been. Yeah, so he's actually a 910,
It's the
288 goals against average,
best
but it's the best
goaltender situation the Flyers have had in, I don't
in
know,
years.
years, 15, 20
Yeah,
years.
and I think the Urson thing and kind of Tortorella deeming him the backup, I think it kind of is a way to reward the guy because I mean I think Tortorella has thought that he's been really impressed with his play through camp and just like how he's handled himself being a young goalie, and it can be hard, especially coming overseas. You never know what to expect with the adjustment to the North American ice and all that, and he's really handled everything well, from coming over last season to his little stint in the AHL and getting hurt, and then this season kind of being the best camp as deemed by Torts or best goalie as deemed by Torts in camp, and then playing well, in his games in the NHL. So I think it's just a sense of like, okay, let's reward Urson for the play that he's kind of had so far, and let's see what he has to end the season, give him some more games because I can kind of look at it and say, well, the team probably wants him to be the backup. So getting him more games and experience in the NHL level is only going to help him have more success next season. So that's probably what they're looking towards. Get him some more games, get him a little more accustomed to the NHL. So next season when we go into it and he's kind of the backup here, he isn't as fresh and as green, and as much of a rookie kind of at the NHL level. He kind of has more experience under his belt, and I think that's kind of a main like look into why they're doing it, just so let's say Hart does get hurt, you don't have a guy who's only really played like 10 NHL games as your backup now. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think again, he goes along and same with Sandstrom. It's this group of 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 year olds, 26 year olds that are all together. And if you can keep the good ones here and add talent around them, you have something really good, especially in net right now. It honestly kind of blows my mind that we have this. Like, I don't think people realize what kind of treasure we have
Yeah, it's nuts.
goaltender right now because
Well, I'll just
we're
list
not
them
taking
off.
advantage of it.
If listeners aren't aware here, like I'll just list them off. You got Hart, you got Urson, you got Sandstrom, you got Fedotov, technically, you got Kolosov. Like that's 5 guys that are potentially NHL
Starters.
caliber. Yeah. So
Yes. I mean, I mean, 4 of those 5 guys are potential starters in the NHL.
Yeah, I
Or
would
if
agree.
not, or starters, or if not backups,
I'd say
and if
Sandstrom
not
at this
starters
point.
around the world.
I'd say Sandstrom at this point is leaning more towards probably the backup, but I'd agree that Kolosov, Fedotov potential there's
Right.
to be a
4 of the
starter.
5.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. 4 of the 5. Sandstrom's the only guy, but he never had starter potential. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. I never thought that Sandstrom would ever be a starter in the NHL. I always thought, okay, this guy, because he's just more erratic in net. He's less. I've been saying it for a while. He's just less technical than a guy like Ersan or Hart. He
Yeah.
he's aggressive. He's got
Well,
agility and skill, but I feel like
which
he
I
relies on
like.
it a little too much.
Yeah, I think what's really killed him at the NHL level, and Jason Martinez has mentioned this on his show as well. So shout
Yeah,
out to him there. But makes a great point. Like he's a smaller goalie. First off, that's not the most common as of late. Most teams are looking for bigger guys than that. Not to say that you can't have success as a smaller goalie. Like Carter Hart's not
but
the
six
biggest
one,
dude.
6'2".
Yeah, like he's smaller. He's not 6'1", 6'2". I believe he's 5, like 11, something like
Yeah,
that. He's a
he's a
little bit
little
smaller.
smaller. Yeah,
So that has an effect. But though, I mean, Jonathan Quick is that size too, and he's effective. But I mean, he's Jonathan Quick, so it is what it is. But I think it's just where guys have been taking him apart at the NHL level, at least from my perspective, is he goes down very quickly. Sometimes he doesn't regain his footing the quickest, leaves the top of the net wide
yeah,
open, and then you have a lot of teams. If you look this season, a lot of the goals he lets in, they're going upstairs on him. They're going
yeah.
upstairs on him, blocker side, and it's just because he's not regaining his positioning and his feet. He's staying,
And
down,
that's
and it's leaving.
fixable.
Yeah, it is. It is fixable. That's what I mean. Like it's literally something that you can go to and Kim Dolba on him and kind of address and say, okay, what do we need to do to strengthen your game so the top of the net isn't as open as it's been? And easy thing, right, is obviously working on leg strength so you get up quicker and you're back in your stand up positioning a lot quicker with your glove and block route, but also just it could be reading plays too. Is like not going down as quick plays a factor as well, because once you're down, you got to regain your skates again, right? So it's also
Yeah,
timing and learning a new league. As you said, took him a while to adjust to the AHL. I'm sure there's an adjustment period at the NHL level, and he's really only played like, what is he, 1-8-1 or something? He's only played like 9 or 10 games, so like
yeah,
it's not a lot of a sample size technically.
yeah. He hasn't had the best entry in, and a lot of clunkers in front of him, unfortunately too. All right, let's move on to our next topic. A little piece of news. So the Flyers hired Dan Hilferty, hired a CEO and parent company Comcast Spectacor. He will partner with Dave Scott. A lot of people kind of jumped on this as changes are coming. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't really know what kind of level of change this will be. What I do like is this guy's from Philly. So maybe he has a good idea of what's going on, and maybe some of the conversations that have led us to this point, especially with the Flyers business department, maybe they can stop. So we'll see. At least you can tell that they recognize they need more voices in the room. Obviously, this guy has a relationship with people because he jumps the line and enters in as an outsider. So right now it doesn't mean too much to us.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like wait and see. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, more just a tidbit of news for us kind of to mention as it happened this week. Obviously, it's hard to pull or look at it and say, well, oh, okay, here comes all the change that we were looking for, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff happening based off of this. But what I do think it kind of adds in is another layer and another person to kind of look at things and evaluate what's going on
Apparently, he's a
below
diehard
him.
Flyers fan.
Yeah, right. They say he's a diehard Flyers fan. I mean, who really fucking knows? So obviously, they're gonna mention that. It's hard for us to really know. The
What
fact that he's from Philadelphia, though, is a good sign, as you're saying.
I
I think
think
the
I think
most. Sorry,
San
go ahead,
Filippo.
Yariv.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think San Filippo and Terrian were saying something that he does have a reputation of
Okay,
like
that's cool.
from people they asked around of like being a legitimate hardcore Flyers fan.
See,
So
that's cool. I didn't listen to the latest Snow the Goalie or
I
anything,
would
so I wasn't
recommend it.
aware. Good episode. Nice,
I
nice
mean,
shout out for the boys.
look, it's without a doubt. You can say whatever you want about that podcast. I don't care about them personally, but I can't deny Chris Terrian. I just can't.
Yeah,
I
Tarian's great. San Filippo knows his shit, so I
Well,
agree.
and look, I don't even care about the Sanfield. I don't care about the media side. I watched Terrian play for
Yeah,
10 years on this team. If I have a avenue to hear him speak, even if I don't agree with him, it's irrelevant. He has a view that is undeniable, even though I
Oh
don't
yeah.
even agree with a lot of his assessments. And quite frankly, he's been wrong a little bit, but he is a legitimate flyer. He's a legitimate hockey
Oh,
player.
100%. He cares
His
about the
in-
organization and the team.
and
So,
his insight, in my opinion, is invaluable because you don't normally get to hear former players talk like that. And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's awesome.
That's a great way to look at it, right? Like you don't really see, other than a few podcasts, like
It's very open.
like a missing curfew or spitting chicklets. You don't really get a player perspective too often, and those guys, even for missing curfew, spitting chicklets, like they're not always focused on the Flyers. So it's
Yeah.
cool to hear Terry and give the Flyers perspective and all that. For Hilferty, I just wanted to say basically, I think it's a good thing because you kind of add another person as almost an evaluator of the situation. Like Dave Scott's been in the position that he's been in, and he kind of comes in, to partner with Dave Scott. But I also think it might kind of be to like not keep an eye on what's happening, but obviously Comcast is looking at what's going on with this team in the past 4 or 5 seasons. There hasn't been much success. So where does it come to the point where they're just like, well, we don't really, there's been no success really under Dave Scott in this position. Maybe Hilferty takes over full time from Scott eventually.
Scott
If
brought
things
him
don't,
in,
Scott brought him in. Okay, there you
which
go.
doesn't mean won't replace him. That's
That's
not
what I
necessarily
mean. It happens all the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's not so what I'm implying. But I think, look, it's no secret that Dave Scott is not a
a
big.
hockey
I
guy.
mean,
Yeah,
now he obviously is into the hockey, into the
but
Flyers.
he's never really been okay. I know about hockey.
Yeah, and we knew this him coming in. So if he has a guy that he trusts,
That knows more, has his finger on the pulse
again,
more. Yeah,
doesn't mean this guy knows what he's talking about. He could be also dangerous and create a bunch of stupid decisions. But if he does know what he's talking about, at the very least, he could be like, okay, could at least push maybe aggressively
yeah.
towards like, hey, there are opportunities here. Maybe it could be like, maybe he knows of some players that Fletcher wants to bring in or whoever's GM wants to bring in. And he's like, hey, yeah, we should invest in this, right?
Yeah,
Like,
do this. Yeah,
even that where you can get like ownership to buy in or even maybe not buy in some players. We don't know. We don't know what kind of
yeah.
effect it's going to have. I think personally, most of it I think will be trying to repair the relationship between the fans and Comcast as
Which
far as
makes sense. I think that's
viewing the games, and the Sixers relationship there I know is also a little shaky. I
I
think
think
that's
that's
primarily why he's here.
I think that's the main point.
Relationship with Philly.
In them kind of bring up the fact that he's a Flyers fan. I think they made a point
He's
to
one of you
mention
guys. You
that.
can listen to
Yeah,
him. He's not
yeah.
Chuck Fletcher.
Basically, I think that's a main point.
It's not
That
good that Chuck Fletcher can't talk to our fan base.
no, but I also like. Okay, I don't like Chuck Fletcher. I don't think he's done a good job by any means necessary. But I also think people like, oh my god, like going on Twitter, Chuck like day this and Chuck Fletcher's not fired
Well, the
yet, or
team,
he should be fired and all. Like,
but the team
yeah, you can argue he
shouldn't.
should be. You can argue he should be fired, but like I think it's overblown. Like he hasn't done a good job, but he hasn't done the fucking worst job ever. Like
I agree, and
there's some moves that he's made that have been okay. Like
yeah. I also think that first of all, everybody has redemption in their road, in my opinion.
yeah.
I still stand by that, but I just feel like it's not good for the organization to be like, oh, they don't like Chuck Fletcher. It's not so fucking what?
I don't think they should care. Yeah, I don't think the Flyers should be phased.
That's your GM. Like he needs to go in front of people and talk, even if they're angry about it. He needs to repair his relationship with the fan base. He isn't an evil dictator, crazy person.
No.
He's made some bad trades, made some decent moves. Not everything he's done is horrible. This isn't a guy who should be ostracized. Thank you so much. Ostracized and like kicked out of town. This isn't a guy who's like raping and pillaging. It's a GM. Like he should be able to go up there and maybe he's waiting for it, but he's got an opportunity here to make things right. I know people don't want to hear that, but that is true.
He could have a good offseason. Yeah.
The opportunity is there for him to have a great offseason. And let's move on. But I think we should be open to that outside of like, oh, Chuck Fletcher's out of here already and somebody else is pulling the strings.
Well, I mean, personally, I mean, if they haven't let him go by now and they're this close to the trade deadline, he's going to be the one he's going to be the one, he's going to be the architect behind these trade deadline moves. And typically when that's the case, you're also going to be the architect of the upcoming offseason. So I think this is, in my estimation, man, this is like this is probably his last chance. It's probably his last offseason he's going to get to try to right the ship in some sense, or at least progress the team even further than the progression that's kind of occurred so far this season, based upon last season, because last season was a complete shit show.
He has to show that the team is now moving in the right direction,
continually taking steps, right? Or else he's probably out of here.
100%, dude. And deservedly so. So speaking of, I guess we can move on to other topics. We'll start stemming here into younger guys, and then we'll end on the trade deadline. Did want to bring up a little Phantoms update here. Just they did win 4-3 against Wilkes-Barre Scranton the other night in overtime. Bobby Brink had the shootout goal in that one. The Phantoms are currently 25-19, 3-2. That's 3 overtime wins and 2 overtime losses. That leaves them at 5th in the conference, 4th in the division. Very tough division there. And they are damn smack in a playoff spot. They're top 14 in league, so they're right in that top cluster of teams, especially in the Eastern Conference. And if they continue what they're doing, they're going to make the playoffs, and that is humongous.
That's a great thing, yeah.
And, I actually forgot that Bobby Brink is only 21 years old.
Yeah,
like in my head, I was like, oh, he's like 23, but he's Cam York's.
Because he only played 2 years in college, right? So he's really young.
We took him with Cam York. Mm-hmm, like exactly. I didn't even it didn't even connect to me how young he was.
That's
only a year older than Forrester.
Kind of go back to Fletcher, like being like, oh, every move Fletcher makes is shit. Like,
it's not.
You go back. No, but I'm saying, like, you go back to this. This is what I want to point out specifically. Like, everybody kills him. Oh, you should have got Caulfield. And I mean, you could make that argument all you want, but arguably, like, Cam York's looking like a pretty good young defenseman right now.
One of the best young defensemen in the NHL.
Yeah, and Bobby Brink is looking like, he's got some game to him. He's about a point per game, or he might be a point per game, I think, in the AHL since he's come back.
He's 0.7. But he was trending in that direction.
Yeah, but coming back off a hip surgery like that, like, he's looking really good. And I mean, if you turn that first pick that was Cole Caulfield, and if you could turn that into a guy who's potentially a first pair defenseman, and then a guy who can get you 70 points in Brink, or 60 points even, I mean, it's pretty good.
That's not too bad at all. That's a
pretty good trade. That's a pretty good draft. So, like, that's the thing with the drafting. Like, you can crucify a guy for the moves, but until it all plays out, it's really hard to judge everything. Right. But for the Phantoms, man, like, the fact that they're in a playoff spot and they're going to make the playoffs, or looking like that's, going to happen most likely, is a really good thing, because you got young guys down there that are going to really benefit. And I go back to this all the time, right? Like, you go on a long playoff run in the AHL, that's really significant for a lot of these younger guys of just experience, because it simulates. They don't have
any playoff experience at the pro level at all.
Exactly, right? So it simulates almost like not NHL playoff experience, but it's damn close in terms of, like, the next best thing you can get.
The second best league in the world.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you get young guys like a Desnoyers, like a Forrester, like a Brink, like an Adder, like a Zamula, potentially. Who knows? Maybe even York ends up playing for them.
I would imagine he would. Why wouldn't they do that?
And if they do if they do send a York down there, and I mean Licksell as well, I mean, they could be in contention potentially to be going for the Calder Cup. And if that's the case, when was the last time
they're winning without them?
Yeah, exactly, right.
And Ersan as well.
Ersan too, forgot to mention him. But when was the last time, I mean, the Flyers had a young team like that at the Lehigh level who won a Calder Cup or was in the conversation? That was Mike Richards, Jeff Carter, 2005.
It's been a while. It's been way too long.
Been a long time, and I think that's what I mean. I think that's why it's such a good thing, and you can maybe point to the fact and the lack of success for the Phantoms. Maybe that has played into why the Flyers haven't been able to develop some of their young guys to the extent that they think they could have.
Yeah, no playoff experience.
No playoff experience, or just not being competitive in the minors. I mean, what can that do to a culture of a team, even from your lower level up to the NHL? I think it's not a good thing, right? You're building and breeding a losing culture almost.
Let me actually point something else to you. That's a great transition in this this point that I saw earlier. Not only are the Boston Bruins clear-cut the number one team in the NHL and have a huge
Providence is number one too in
Providence,
the A, right?
Not only number one, but also a huge separation from the rest of the crowd. I've never seen that before. I've never seen a team
that's just a whole organization that is just like, we're better than everybody.
They're just running on I don't
Yeah.
know, pure fire. And I don't recall them getting a bunch of first overall picks.
No, they don't. But like, I don't think it's.
Magically, they
I
continue to
mean,
stay competitive.
you don't need first overall picks. You need guys. Obviously, you do need top 10 picks. I think
They're
you need to be able to
drafted
find.
very well.
Yeah, you need to be able to find talent in the draft. But a lot of it is like you were saying, Yariv. I've seen you mention this before. Usually, unless you're drafting in the top 5 or top 3, elite level talent's usually not drafted. It is developed, and usually it takes time. It's a process. Like just look at Tage Thompson. Was he drafted and was he boom shot of a cannon, scoring 35 goals a season or whatever, almost 50 goals like he's on pace for right now?
Yep.
No, it took some time, right? So like that's usually what it is. And I think for the Phantoms, it's a great thing because it's going to be some great development experience for them with this playoff time. And I'm excited just for next season just to see how these young guys kind of look when they get more of an opportunity potentially at the NHL level. Like I think they're doing a really good job in taking their time and not rushing Forrester, not rushing Desnoyers. I think in the past we would have seen them get called up with some of the injuries we've seen, which could have kind of
Yes.
stunted their development. And I think the fact they're letting them produce at the AHL level and really find their games there is only going to bode well for
I think
them.
it's a good
And
move. I agree.
yeah, and the potential success that it could lead to in the NHL for those guys. So I
Yeah,
think
you
it's a
want
good
them
move.
coming over confident, like knowing they
Yeah.
were already good players for
You're like,
sure.
we killed in the AHL and now we're gonna do it in the NHL. Like that type that's the attitude you want from your young guys. Like
100%. So another guy I wanted to bring up was Jay O'Brien. This is just a guy who's been like completely forgotten about. Well, you're not 100% certain he's going to get a contract after this, but he's been a point per game player every year in the NCAA. He has definitely been one of their better players. I don't know what he projects to be at the NHL level, but he does have a game, similar to a Scott Lawton. He does have, he's got a shot. He can skate. He's got size. He's got tenacity. He's not. I mean, from what I recall and what I've seen of him, he's not a throwaway type of prospect. He's a guy that, hey, maybe he won't be a top 6 forward in the NHL, but this guy could have serious value at the NHL level and play a tenacious game. I'm just curious to see what the Flyers do with him. He is a center. They do have a bunch of young guys around his age, but I do anticipate the Flyers could look to sign this guy, and I don't really see why not. And he's a guy who could see coming over at the end of the year after NCAA season's over, making his way over to the Phantoms. He's not going to have a huge market for him in free agency because he hasn't like progressed statistically. So it's really hard for, I think, other teams to be like, oh, this is a guy we want to bid for.
it's
Again, I'm
interesting.
not certain.
It's
Go ahead.
interesting for me with O'Brien. I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not the Flyers should sign him or not. The reason being is this is what his first, second, third, fourth, fifth season in college.
Yep.
So that's the concern, right?
I think it's fourth season, but he had a year off or something like that, or he
Yeah, so
transferred
what it
school.
is fourth season, and then in 1920 he was in Pentington V's in the BCHL, so he dropped down. Remember, he
Right.
had that real. He his
That's what it was.
first season in the NCAA in 2018-19 with Providence was really bad. Like he only had 5 points in 25
Yep. He
games.
had a
And
bad
then he
first
kind of,
year.
yeah, and he dropped down to a lower level, kind of built his game back up. And then from there, like you're saying, he had 16 points in 16 games in 2020-21. He had 22 points in 24 games last season. And this season, he has 25 points in 29 games. So about a point per game since he's kind of come
Just
back
hasn't
up.
scored this year.
Just hasn't really scored too much. Yeah, he only has 6 goals, 19 assists. So I think it's interesting because I know the Flyers, obviously, they have younger guys they're going to be drafting that they're going to want to give a contract to, potentially, and things like that this season, or maybe other guys they might want to sign that they've already drafted. So I wonder with how many contracts they have available and things like that, because they're at 48, they're obviously going to move some guys out. The interesting tidbit with O'Brien is obviously showing like, he could probably be, I don't think he's ever going to be like a light it on fire, top of the lineup type guy. I think you could agree with that. He's probably going to be like more of a middle six at the best.
Yeah.
Probably third line he's going to pencil into. The interesting thing with
It's his
O'Brien,
game type.
though, yeah, the interesting thing with O'Brien, though, is the compensation that the Flyers could potentially acquire if they do not sign him. So basically, if they don't sign him, they have up until August to sign him due to injuries. He becomes a free agent. If they do not sign him by that date in August, they'll get a 2024 second round pick as compensation.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah. However,
Oh, they're
there's
not
some.
signing him.
However, there's even more
I didn't know
to
that.
this. there's even more to this story that I kind of actually looked into because
This is good insight.
one of our listeners on Twitter asked about this, so I kind of did some digging and was in a DM
Nice.
conversation with him. So shout out to him. But yeah, so essentially too, since he had injuries, the Flyers can appeal to the NHL to move that date of signing him, that August, I believe it's like August 15th or something, or like August, like the first couple of weeks of August. They can move that date up though, to either the end of May or beginning of June, which would be before the NHL draft. They can appeal due to the injuries that they've had. They can state essentially that since he's been injured, we don't believe that signing him, would be a benefit to us, and we should have the opportunity to cut him earlier so we have like more flexibility this offseason. So that's essentially the clause that is in the CBA that they could appeal through. And if they do use that appeal and they won the appeal, they would be granted, instead of a 2024 second round pick, a 2023 second round pick is on the table if they were to win that appeal. So I don't know if they're going to go that route.
That's great insight.
I don't even know if Chuck Fletcher and the team even knows. I'm sure
he's aware about it.
I'm sure they know.
Without a doubt, he knows.
Yeah.
People want to criticize Fletcher, but he has a particular skill set, and it is that actually.
Yeah. So
cap management here has not been that bad. The salaries have been, but he hasn't lost players in stupid ways.
They have a big brass of assistant GMs, so like they're all likely aware of this. So I wonder what they're gonna do if they're gonna sign him.
Great insight, Vasili.
Appreciate it, Yariv. I wonder what they're gonna do, or if they're gonna go with the seconds. My personal choice would be go for the appeal. If you lose, you lose. Who cares?
100%.
If you win, you can cut him, and then you get your second round pick in 2023, which you already don't have. And then it adds even more because let's say you get a second at the deadline for JVR, hypothetically in 2023, then you got 2 second rounders. And, that's a stacked draft, so a lot can happen. But even if you don't win the appeal, a second in 2024 would add you you'll have 2 seconds as well in 2024, plus 2 firsts, one of your own and Florida's. So stacked drafts for you in 2024 as well. And who knows what you could use that capital for, maybe a trade. So the Flyers have options. Personally, I think with those options, they probably shouldn't sign him. I think the second round pick in this year would be more valuable if they could win the appeal there.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's similar to the Lindblom situation where I know the cap's going up on him next year, but they saved cap on him this year. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, there is a benefit to letting this guy go. I wasn't aware of that. And to be honest with you, I think that's kind of where it goes. You need the cap, you need the draft capital. I think absolutely there. If that is true, which I assume that what you're saying is true, then I think they will appeal. They'll good chance of losing that. But again, a 2024 second round pick is not too bad considering you have 2 first round picks that year as well. And to have 3 picks already in the top 60, that's a pretty big deal. So that's right.
We'll see if they appeal to cut him earlier. I mean, there's no telling what's going to happen, but I would assume that
they might also really like Jay O'Brien, and we don't know.
Yeah, we could be out of the loop. They might love this kid. They might sign him. So
they didn't draft him though, and it's the Hextall team that loved him. And
I would assume that's what I'm saying. Just because of that, I would assume that they're probably going to go this route of getting one of the draft picks potentially.
I think you're right, dude. I think it's a great insight. I think you changed my mind there on that one. I didn't know it was available, and that's it's a little more ruthless, but that's definitely the route that I would take.
I think in terms of an asset management perspective, that's the move they should make.
Right now,
I think it makes too much sense.
Right now, draft picks are huge for this team. So let's move on to our next topic. So let's move on to Elliot Friedman's comments on 32 Thoughts. Flyers are looking for a center, and that they're going to make a splash at center. Now, I don't like jumping on rumors this far ahead, but there's obviously some truth to this.
There's smoke. If Friedman's saying it, he must have heard something.
100% agree with that statement, but also just the fact that, like, guys, we're close to the team as far as we watch every game. You guys listening watch. You know what this team's biggest problems are. If Flyers weren't going for that, they'd be fucking idiots.
100%.
But it's good to hear it get validated.
Oh, yeah, I would agree. I mean, obviously, hearing Elliot Friedman mention it, he's a guy who is very plugged in. So if he's hearing it and he's saying it on his podcast, and not even just on the 32 Thoughts, he mentioned it as well on the Jeff Merrick show. So he's going to be doubling up on that statement and mentioning it as often as he has been. There's obviously smoke to the fire, and like you're saying though, I don't think it takes a genius to recognize what the Flyers team and what this team specifically is really lacking most, and it is center depth. They are void at center. You could argue right now, if you look at their center lineup, they don't even really have a legitimate top six center. I mean, you could argue Morgan Frost is a second line guy, but he's never done it before. So they'd be stupid not to add a center, especially with the uncertainty surrounding Sean Couturier moving ahead.
No, you have
I
to.
think, you gotta do it. It's just almost a matter of like, who is it? At this point, I mean, we obviously discussed Dylan Larkin last week. We know he's an option.
I don't think he'll make it to free
agent. I don't think so too. I mean, the fourth period and Dave Pinata and Anthony DeMarco have both talked about the Larkin situation in depth and kind of reported that Larkin's looking for $9 million.
We'll get 8.5 and be happy about it.
Yzerman's looking for about 8. He wants the number to start with an 8, and typically Yzerman usually gets what he wants, man. So I'm expecting him to get re-signed, and that's where it gets interesting in terms of the center.
They have the cap space. There's no reason they can't.
Yeah, and he's their captain. I mean, he's a young guy. Why would they let him go?
Top six forward. He leads them in points. It's like,
in a perfect world, you'd love him to go to free agency, and you'd love the Flyers to be a part of it. I mean, they would be in the mix if he gets there 100%. There's no doubt. It just makes sense for them. Is he going to get there? Probably not.
If he is, that's our statement. If he's available, 100% the Flyers are going to go for him, and they will move a player out to bring a guy like that in.
Yeah, and there was also rumors that the Flyers, Bo Horvat was on their radar as well before he got moved to the Islanders, which makes sense. I mean, it's kind of similar thing. I think it would have been a bit of an overpay for him if he went to free agency.
I think so. The Bo Horvat one, I don't think as much because he's not a play driver. He's a good player. He's a two-way player, but it doesn't necessarily it would help. I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
It would help our team, but we don't have a Matthew Barzal. We don't.
That's what the Flyers are looking for. They want that number one guy that can be the play driver. Basically.
Exactly. We're looking for a guy who is we're looking for Morgan Frost plus, a guy who plays Morgan Frost's best game every night and puts up 70 points a year.
And this is where it gets interesting, right? Just like him mentioning they're looking for centers, because aside from Larkin, it's really just Ryan O'Reilly who just got traded to the Leafs. So we'll mention that. He'll be a UFA, O'Reilly. I don't know if the Leafs, they probably won't re-sign him, just their cap troubles are insane. So I'd be surprised, but you never know. Jonathan Taves will be a UFA if he does not get re-signed, which I'm expecting the Blackhawks probably will move him, most likely, and not re-sign him. And then Jordan Staal also is a UFA, and I mean, with the way Carolina is, I'm going to expect that they're probably going to re-sign him too. But even if those three guys get to UFA, I don't know if the Flyers should be jumping on signing. They're all going to be in their mid to late 30s.
None of those guys solve the problem.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? The Flyers
Ryan O'Reilly maybe a little bit.
Yeah, but even him, he's kind of heading to the back nine. You're looking for a younger piece to kind of fit with that mid 20s range the Flyers are kind of building. So it's an interesting situation that they find themselves in, and reason being because you're looking for centers, but there's not much available in the UFA market. So you gotta get creative. You got to make some sort of trade or something, or hope one of your young guys just comes out of nowhere, like a Cutter Gauthier, just really establishes himself, which is also a possibility. But you don't want to put that much pressure on a young guy just coming in right away. So that's something they got to be wary of. But it's interesting. They're going to probably likely have to go to the trade route if they really want to add anything huge at center, unless a guy like a Larkin makes it to UFA. So I'm interested to see what Fletcher can do, because, I mean, he doesn't have the best track record in terms of trades or really being creative with the trades he's making. Usually he overpays in a lot of them. So, I mean, if you're going to go for a number one center or something about that, I mean, and he's going to overpay, what are they going to give up? So it kind of leaves me interested, a little bit worried as to what might happen. But also, if you add a number one center, it's a good thing, despite the price that you might have to pay for it. What do you think is the step forward in terms of adding a center, Yariv? Do you see it going the trade route, or do you see them, let's say, if it's too much to pay over trade, there's nothing in UFA, will they stand pat and just wait?
I think the Flyers were going to explore trade options for a youngish 27, 28-year-old center. A guy who
Fair,
can play
yeah.
in the top six, essentially what Kevin Hayes is supposed to be for us.
Yeah.
And he's not center. I think they're going to try to move Kevin Hayes.
I think that kind of
Um,
spells the end for Hayes, right? Like you move his salary, kind of
th-
bring that younger guy
I,
in
I
instead.
think I think the reason for Hayes is you're not playing the role we brought you in here for. We brought you in
Yeah.
here to be a two-way centerman, and you're
And you're not
playing
doing it. Yeah.
offensive left wing. You were
Yeah.
-4 last game.
Or at least our coach can't trust you to do it anyway, and he's not
Yeah,
going to. It seems like so.
yeah, and I think a team would value him and would put him back in the middle. Um, so I think the Flyers will try to move on from him and try to use that money or whatever to bring in another guy. But I think you have to look the trade route. Otherwise, you wait and see what happens to UFA. Otherwise, I would be very open to signing a veteran guy like the guys you named for a
Yeah.
short-term contract. Like if
Yeah.
I could bring him in for a year as a placeholder, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I think
but
that's a good statement, Yariv. Just because, like, let's say there's nothing out there, the trade market is, insanely pricey. Let's say you brought in a Ryan O'Reilly at, I don't know, 5.5, 6 million for 2 years. Is that really going to kill you? It adds a nice defensive center. He might not be exactly what you're looking for, but it could give the gap for a guy like a Cutter Gauthier to come in and play
he would do
3C,
I think
right?
Ryan
So
O'Reilly would do well here.
I agree.
I just think when you have Sean, if you think that Sean Couturier is coming back, it's like it's a little redundant.
You had basically the
Um,
same guys, Couturier
very
almost.
yeah,
But
with
but
less
though in a
offensive skill.
though in a Tortorella system, having two guys that can control the game
But
defensively like that could be
that's why
a
I said,
benefit.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I said, even a guy like Jonathan Taves, who I don't think he'd want to come here. I think he'd probably want to try to get one last shot
Or
at a
a
championship.
contender. Yeah.
But maybe not though, dude. I mean, he's got
He's
championships.
got 3 cups. Yeah.
He's
It
a type
could.
of guy. I mean, he'd be great for our locker room. He can play two-way center. It's another one of those guys. Like if they're available, like all three guys you named are two-way centers. It would
Mhm.
only help add to our strength. It wouldn't fix our weaknesses, but it would add to our strength and
Of
fix
getting
our
a play
weak-
driver. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be like, okay, another guy who can grind it down. Like Taves was a play driver. I don't think that much anymore.
Yeah.
Jordan Stahl had play driving skills, but these guys aren't going to do that anymore. What
Yeah.
what they
Exactly.
really should look to see is if a team is for some reason removing a young talent,
Well, yeah, I
giving
think
up
the
on somebody.
playoffs. I think the playoffs are going to be interesting to watch for that reason. Like if you see, let's say there's certain teams that have expectations, they don't meet those expectations, changes happen, and then who becomes available from there.
Yeah.
I mean, the
I mean, is
Leafs.
there another Owen Tippett out there who plays
Yeah,
center?
who's a center. That's obviously one. I mean, a big one I think the Flyers need to keep an eye on is the Leafs. Um, Austin Matthews is coming up on re-upping. I'm not saying that Matthews is the target here, guys, so don't worry.
But the
I don't
cap
think
situation.
yeah, the cap situation, they're gonna need to re-sign him. Mitch Marner makes about 10.9 or 8 million a year. Maybe
I
they're gonna have to
mean,
move him if
Vegas has cap trouble.
yeah, exactly. Like, there's a
Uh,
lot of good teams that are, in an interesting scenario where they might have guys on the move potentially. So I think the Flyers will have
Tampa
to keep an eye
Bay.
out. Yeah,
Vancouver needs to move more players.
yeah,
Penguins will never deal with us. Um, I'm just looking here. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little rough finding guys that are going to be exactly what we need. We're going to
yeah,
have to get creative. Like, I really think that's
exactly.
the only
And
way to really get around it.
that's what a little bit kind of worries me, just because Fletcher has
Is
been
not.
known to not be a creative general
That's been,
manager.
yeah, it's been his weakness.
So
Creative at drafting, though. Drafting hasn't
yeah,
been bad.
he's been a good drafter. I mean, I give a lot of credit to Brent Flair there. I mean, he's their draft
Sure.
guy.
But he
So
believed,
he's doing.
but you have to. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you have to give credit to a guy who can
Oh,
sit back,
yeah,
listen to his assistant GM's breakdown, and be like,
I
you know what I
agree.
mean?
Yeah,
If you can
100%.
shit on him from the stuff he doesn't approve, you gotta give
I'll
him
give
credit for what he does
Fletcher
approve.
what I'll give Fletcher credit for is he does not seem like a micromanaging type of GM. He seems like a guy who he
I agree.
delegates a lot and he takes the
To a
information from the people
fault.
yeah, which might not be a good thing to be honest. He might need to be more aggressive, more assertive in certain areas, but sometimes it can be a good thing. Like I think with the drafting, I think obviously Flair knows what he's doing. He's shown in Minnesota that he was able. A lot of their really good players are players he drafted, so he has a track record there. So I think just the fact that he listens to him is a good thing for the Flyers, at least drafting wise and into the future, especially in an important draft coming up. Um, yeah, did you want to get into like our more like trade deadline stuff here?
Yeah, I
Like
was
the
gonna
end off?
say, I don't know if I want to go through like all of the big trades. Obviously, there was the Tarasenko trade, the Horvat trade, the Ryan O'Reilly trade. I
Mhm.
do want to go through our players though,
Yeah, for
specifically.
sure.
So before we get into JVR, we'll go to him next. But I do want to talk about Nick Seeler a little bit because I was saying like, do the Flyers trade him? And I know a lot of people are like, oh, if they don't get a fourth or a third, don't do it. But I was like thinking about it. Even somebody like Patrick Brown, who leads his team in faceoffs, he's right-handed. He's a
I
center.
think I could trade him. Yeah,
If you guys can if they can trade anyone and get a fifth round pick,
do it,
okay,
man.
let's say you get 3 fifth round picks. Okay, you get 2 fifth round picks. Okay, well, you
Can
can
use that.
package those to move
Yeah.
into the third round. If you have these assets, we need them come to draft. And not only that, this is something I also thought about. This is a top heavy talent draft. We don't know what kind of flaws people see in some of these higher end guys. They could drop considerably lower than where they're supposed to be, a la like an Oscar Lindblom, who was
Then
supposed to
there's
be a first
opportunity.
round
Yeah.
pick and ended
Yeah.
up getting taken in the fifth. A guy like Kapril Kaprizov got taken in the fifth round. A guy like Noah Cates, who I think still has top six potential. Like these are guys who
Especially in a deep draft that could be available. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. This is like, I don't think there is no value to that. I think if you can get a fifth for
No.
Nick Seeler, you take it.
Because usually what it is, especially in a draft too, where there's so much, higher end talent, and it's been projected that like a lot of guys that are in, let's say, like the 8 to 15 range, Yariv would have been top 10 range like in previous years. That's how talented this draft is, right? Which makes sense due to the
Who knows who'll
generational talents
fall?
at the front. Yeah, exactly. Just
What
due
if
to the
they fall to
general
the third round and we get a third round pick? Who cares?
that's
We
what I
need the
mean.
opportunity.
Usually guys who fall like that, it's because they do one thing really well, but the rest of their game might not be established, and hence they drop, right? So you never know what that one thing that they do really well is going to be, and if you can capitalize and grab that guy, then you build their game out from there. It could be a steal or a diamond in the rough type of situation for you. So I think, like you're saying, it's valuable. I think it's something that they really should look to do.
Just gain
Obviously,
as many
yeah,
assets. Like
I
when you
get
said
it.
that
I
Jay
get it.
O'Brien thing, it was like, yeah.
I get it from Fletcher's perspective and the team's perspective. It's probably too like a bit of Tortorella mixed in. Like I think Torts probably likes Seeler, likes him on the bottom pair, knows what he's getting from him night in, night out. So he's probably saying to Fletcher, like, unless you get blown away, like I want him. Like I want this guy. I would like him to be here. He's a good example. He works
But
hard.
but
But
don't you think that's
yeah.
wrong?
In where the team is in the situation that they're in, I would say yes. You can look at it in both situations, right? Like the one situation is like, okay, a fifth round pick or a sixth round pick or a seventh round pick. Like I think a seventh round pick is like a 2% chance of making it to the NHL. Like a fifth
Seventh
round pick is
round is
like a
not
five.
worth it. But a fifth
Yeah,
round,
a fifth round pick I believe is like a 7% chance. So it's still
Ollie
a very
Lickshell was a seventh round pick.
yeah. That's what I mean, right? Like it's still a very low chance, but I think like
Aiden
the point
Primo.
the point you made is what I look to, is that like you
Asset.
gather these, and then you package them and use them together to move up or be more
It's
creative and
cash.
do things you want to do. Yeah, it's like currency,
Cash. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. It's currency for a draft that is very important to us.
And
And
the
I
thing
think,
is, yeah,
oh, go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. No,
I
no, no.
was gonna
Please.
say, the thing is too, like once you get to the draft, you never know what teams are gonna fall in love with what players and all that. And
Exactly.
if you have the value and the assets, you could say, well, you really like this guy.
Give
Okay,
me a
we'll
fourth
trade you
next
this.
year.
Yeah, exactly, right? You never know what you can parlay for yourself. So I think just them having the most options possible is a good thing. And I think, you know what, like Justin Braun got a third last year. Steeler, I think they could probably get a fourth or fifth. It's just going to be down to the wire on like what teams, like
Yeah.
whenever the teams miss out on who they really want, and they're going to be like, fuck, we need somebody. And then Fletcher should be like, okay, give me a fourth for Steeler, or you don't get him at all. And then
And
you got to play
obviously, well, a lot of the best teams have cap problems right now, and a guy like Steeler's super cheap.
Oh yeah, and especially
And
prorated. He's 775K. Prorated, he's like nothing.
so
Yeah.
a team might be like, you know what, we'll give you a fourth just because he fits better than the other guy
We don't have to do any cat maneuvering.
He's the same and he makes $2 million a year or whatever, right? He's a bottom pairing defender.
And we don't have to send somebody down or put someone through waivers or do any cat maneuvering or anything weird like that. So
I think there's an opportunity there. So let's talk about our big fish. And that really is JVR. It's not the biggest fish on the market. There are other, obviously, great
Yeah.
players have been traded, better players than JVR, but he's still a good player. He's still a valuable player, a player
Yeah.
that, I think Elliott has said and others have said, I don't think a second round pick is out of the question for him at all. Second round pick and a prospect, even I think not a high end prospect, but probably some kind of young player, maybe
Like a
somebody
B
who played for the,
prospect.
yeah, maybe even plays for the Phantoms, like that type of player. But I definitely think I think the Flyers should, if the deal is available, like don't even wait till the last minute. Make the deal. There's no reason not to lose JVR. It's okay. I get that the locker room will miss him. I get that the young guys will miss him. But like I said earlier, I want to see that.
Yeah, you want to see
Um,
the sink or swim. Like, how do they perform without a veteran guy like that? Do they step it up? Right? You never know.
100%. And so let's just list the teams that were listed. And I saw these also listed. So Dallas, Minnesota, Winnipeg, and Vegas have all been named. I think
Yeah.
all of the teams there have the assets to get him. But I don't know who's the top choice there. I know that there are some teams there that are going to be looking for third line guys on their team and guys in his range of price. I don't think his price is going to be outrageous. Obviously, his cap hit is going to be very manageable for a team, especially because we're clearly willing to retain up to 50%. There's no reason we shouldn't retain salary on it. It'll only up the return for it. So I do see him moving pretty soon.
Yeah, I think
It's a
just
good
based
way
on
for JVR to leave, honestly.
I agree, and I think just based on what's going on, you could see him move quickly. Like we're starting to see like the bigger names off the board. Like Tarasenko's already gone, Horvat's already
O'Reilly,
gone,
Barbashev's
O'Reilly's
names
gone,
out there.
Barbashev's name's out there. I'm sure there's teams getting antsy, thinking like, okay, all these guys are getting off the board. If we keep waiting, like was going to be left for us? And I think
Yeah.
it's kind of like an opportunity where the Fletcher and the Flyers need to pounce. And I understand waiting until the deadline because March 3rd, you drive up value. It makes sense, right? Like you get a bidding war going. You wait till the last second, you kind of maximize. But it could be, you don't want to be left waiting kind of with your dick in your hand also, right?
They don't have an endless amount of assets, and if another team's willing
Yeah.
to pull the trigger earlier, they might not have the asset to make that trade with you
Well,
later.
that's the thing too, and like you're in a situation where there could be a team who's in the mix, and they're thinking, well, we need this guy now because we're in a playoff race, and he's going to help us 2 weeks earlier than waiting till March
Yeah,
3rd. So we need him now. And let's say the Flyers are in that situation, they don't make the move, and then that team goes in to add somebody else. There's another team that's removed, right? So they don't want that to happen.
yeah,
So I think it's a fine line to walk of waiting to maximize the assets, but also waiting too long and then kind of fucking yourself over almost in a sense of like, okay, well, this team was willing to pay and you waited and now they got somebody else because you waited. So
yeah.
I think they got to be careful. Personally, if I was them, I'd look to move him as soon as they possibly can. If you're looking at it, I mean, I kind of found out like the assets that each team that was mentioned by Elliot Friedman there, Dallas, Mini, Winnipeg, and Vegas kind of have on the board that would probably be considered. So I look at 2023 draft assets just because that's obviously what's coming up. So Dallas has a second round pick this season and a fourth round pick available. Minnesota has their first round pick and second available. Winnipeg has their first round pick and third round pick available, and Vegas has a first round pick and 2 third-round picks, one which is Buffalo's
I feel like
from the Eichel
Minnesota
trade.
fits very
Minnesota
well.
fits. Minnesota fits.
Not because
they
of the
are
assets, because of the type of game they play.
type of game they play. They are a big team.
Right.
They have big bodies, so it fits the mold of like the team that they're looking to build, I would say. And also, I mean, you got to factor in his wife's from Minnesota and they own property there. So
Oh, right. You mentioned that last time.
yeah, I don't know if that factors into anything, but I mean, I'm sure if I don't know if they probably aren't giving him a choice, but usually GMs try to do well by their players nonetheless.
For sure.
So I'm sure they'll talk about it and they know that something like this is coming up. So that's a factor. Also, too, something we mentioned is, potentially if a 2024 first is on the table, I don't think that's a bad route to go as well. And you
Imagine
get
if the Flyers pulled that off, where they like ended up getting a first in 2024 for JVR, and then getting this 2023 pick for OBrien, and then
that's
all of a sudden,
awesome.
yeah, that's the type of stuff that I'm saying that if Fletcher can pull that off, all of a sudden people are like, all right, well maybe
Those are
he
pretty
does
good
have
moves.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like over exceed an expectation once.
Yeah, and then you know what you can do too with that. I mean, there's a ton on the table. Like you add a 2022 or 2023, I mean, second rounder because of that appeal to Jay O'Brien. You cut him early, and then you get a 2024 first for JVR. You could package a 2024 first in the second rounder and get another first in the 2023. Like the options are endless, right? So I think it, like you're saying, the more they can do to add draft capital, that can help them to potentially open up and explore
They
other
need the
moves.
leverage. They need
Yeah,
the leverage. They don't have
100%.
they have too much
100%.
dead cap space right now. They don't have enough picks and all, but they're not in a terrible space with picks, but they need more.
Yeah,
And yeah,
especially where they're at. Especially where they're at, and they're kind of building up the team and just how good this draft is. The more picks, the better. Like you're saying, it's all currency. Even the older vets you're going to move and get like lower round picks. Use those picks to make a deal or do something that is of value for you. And I mean, for JVR, I've said it for the last couple of weeks. If they don't at least get a second round pick for him, it's a failure in my eyes. Like especially with the guys off the board right now. Like you're telling me there isn't a ton of teams still looking to add forwards that can help them. Like you have to be able to use that to your advantage and say, well, there's not really much available if you want a top 6 type winger who, you know, can score and play on the power play and play 20 minutes, or if you needed him to. Like what else is out there now other than JVR? Like if you look around the league, is there really much that fits the mold of like a scoring addition that you can add that's very valuable?
No, he's one of the top. He's one of the top players available.
Yeah, so they gotta they have to capitalize now, especially with. I think it's a good thing. I mean, Tarasenko, O'Reilly, Horvat getting dealt so early actually helps the Flyers, I would say, because now there's less on the board, so JVR becomes more of a prime target. Yeah,
and the returns were good for him. And again, JVR's highest leverage is that he doesn't have a huge Ryan O'Reilly cap that we can't eat for several years, right? He has one that a 1 year remaining here, or at least not even, right? 25% of his season remaining by the time he gets traded, and we can retain 50% of that price. So to a team, that's valuable in the same way that Nick Seeler's cap hit is valuable. Even Justin Braun, it's valuable because you can add them and they're not going to be a huge loss to you.
Or you could make multiple additions. Like if there's a team that's looking to really add, you could add, let's say, one of these guys and add somebody else because they're not adding so much cap to your books, right?
Yeah. So. And we'll see what happens, but I don't know if anybody else will get traded, but I do expect JVR to 100% get.
I think we mentioned it a couple weeks. Like probably the surprise guy or like the other guy would be Tony D. Yeah, though who knows? We'll see.
Even that, I'm not even convinced anymore. Like I'm really just expecting the old guys to be on the table here.
Yeah, like a Brown, Sealer, JVR. Yeah.
Anybody 30 and up. Like look at St. Louis. Outside of Barbashev, who's going to be a UFA, who clearly is not part of their future plans. Yeah. And I saw Colton Parayko's name thrown out there. I don't really buy that.
He has way too much term and way too much contract that the team's going to take him at the deadline. That's a summer move.
Yeah, I think we would look at a guy like Colton Parayko, to be honest. I'd love to get him.
But once again, that's a summer type thing, I think.
Sure.
I think it's just too much going on.
I also I'm not 100% convinced that they would actually move him. I think mostly the teams are calling to try to get him. But you look at the names.
After a down year.
They're moving 30-year-olds. Like they're doing what the Flyers are doing. They're like, okay, well, we have guys in our 20s. We have Jordan Kyrou. Like we're not sitting here an old team. So if guys are under 30, we're good. We can keep that closer together and then, start ramping up again within a couple of years. Yeah. And let's speed that up. Right.
See,
and
now Lewis they have 3
first-round picks. So.
I was going to say they have 3 first-round picks. They hit on even 2 of those. The rebuild's looking really good for them very quickly.
The reality is that St. Louis is not that bad of a team, and they're trying to speed up they're trying to do an aggressive retool. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing.
With the draft,
It's what the Flyers said they were going to do, only the Flyers didn't invest in any elite players. They invested in Rasmus Ristolainen.
And they didn't invest in draft capital either. So,
well, they have a little bit. I mean...
Yeah. But I mean, like to St. Louis's extent, where they're getting 3 first-round picks.
Right. We didn't do one of those years at all. Yeah. And that's where Fletcher hasn't. And that's why this is his opportunity, dude. You don't have to get 3 first-round picks. You got to get something here.
Yeah, 100%. Or something that you can use to parlay into another first, potentially. Something hopefully. You can be creative with.
Smart, dude. Look smarter than other GMs for a little bit.
Yeah, literally. I think the fan base would think of it as a relief. But you know what? the Flyers, at least with the draft, man, and their first pick, like lasting the touchdown, I guess they're still in a pretty good position. They are right now in 25th, last in the league, so that places them as the 8th overall pick.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so it's not too bad. 8th overall, still a really high pick. You're still in the top 10 in a really talented draft, and like we're saying, there's no guarantee or there's no, situation that you're going to stay at 8. But you could move up, and it happens a lot where teams do move up. So
yes, and they will lose more games here, and the other teams are starting to win a little bit, and that's again why I want to move JVR quickly. Like, let's speed up the process here, Fletcher. We don't need to win out here. That doesn't help us at all. It helps for the young players to do well, but we want them to do it on their own.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up there. Vasili, what do you got? You got anything new coming out?
There'll be an article paired with this one when we drop the podcast, so keep an eye out for that. And I'm going to have some, trade deadline type articles, mostly surrounding JVR, just kind of projecting what is on the table for trades, stuff like that, what teams you might be interested in his services. So keep an eye out on Flyers Nitty Gritty for that, guys, and just for all the other amazing content our writers put out as well, because they do an amazing job. So thanks for the support.
Well said, my friend. And again, we'll have more guests when I get back to the United States. For now, just easier for Vasili and I because of the time difference and whatnot. Again, thank you everybody for listening. We love you so much. Everything has been super helpful. Gonna keep like I said, there's gonna be more changes coming, working on stuff in the background. But give us a little bit of time for that. But outside of that, everybody's been amazing. Like, comment, subscribe, downvote, upvote, do whatever the heck you want. Just any interaction is extremely helpful for us. Check out the team store. Follow myself and Vasili. I'm at Wolok. Vasili is flyered up. Yeah, and I think we're getting closer to at least one of the most exciting points in the season, which is the trade deadline. So we'll have more coverage on that. Again, thank you, my friend Vasili. Appreciate it as always. Thank you to everybody who's listening. We love you. And remember, always stay